Welcome to ZoomInData. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining the 18th video in our extended Azure Logic Apps series. In this session, titled Logic Apps plus Power Platform, Deep Integration, Power Apps, Deep Integration, Power BI, we will cover how Azure Logic Apps integrates natively with the Microsoft Logic Apps integrates natively with the Microsoft Power Apps ecosystem. Canvas and model-driven. Deep connections with Power Automate Canvas and model-driven. Dataverse. Real-world patterns for building end-to-end solutions combining low-code front-ends real-world enterprise for building end-to-end solutions combining low-code front-ends with enterprise-grade back-end automation. And scaling these hybrid solutions. Best practices 2026 edition. Security. This topic is extremely valuable for organizations using both Azure and Power Platform. Edition. Combining them creates this topic is extremely valuable for organizations using both Azure and Power Platform. Please subscribe to ZoomInData and enable notifications to stay updated. Let us begin. If you find this content valuable, why integrate Azure Logic Apps with the Power Platform notifications to stay updated? Logic Apps provides enterprise-grade back-end automation, hybrid connectivity. Why integrate Azure Logic Apps with the Power Platform and advanced AI capabilities? Logic Apps provides enterprise-grade back-end automation, Dataverse, hybrid connectivity, Power Automate, B2B, Power BI, delivers low-code front-end experiences and advanced app development capabilities, business user empowerment, Power and rich data modeling, Power Apps. Together they create full-stack solutions. Automate, Power Apps for user interface, delivers low-code front-end data storage, Logic Rapid Apps for complex orchestration, business user empowerment, and Power BI for real-time insights and reporting. Together they create full-stack solutions. How does Logic Apps connect to Dataverse? Formerly common data secure data storage. Use the official Microsoft Dataverse managed connector in Logic Apps, and which provides actions such as creating a new record, update a record, delete a record, list rows. How does Logic Apps connect to Dataverse? Authentication uses Microsoft Entra ID. Use the official Microsoft Dataverse managed connector or delegated OAuth for user which provides actions such as the connector fully supports standard tables, update a record, custom tables, delete a record, virtual tables, list rows, alternate keys for lookups, and fetch XML for advanced querying. Uses Microsoft Entra ID. Managed what are the most common Dataverse plus Logic Apps integration or delegated real-time data synchronization? Trigger on the Dataverse record fully created or updated right-pointing arrow Logic Apps processes, virtual tables, enriches data right-pointing arrow up for lookups, external systems, and fetch XML for advanced CRM, third-party APIs. Complex multi-step common Dataverse plus Logic Apps integration mission triggers Logic Apps real-time data synchronization handles multi-level Dataverse record created or escalations right-pointing arrow Logic Dataverse record status enriches data processing and reporting updates Logic Apps reads Dataverse rows in bulk using list rows right-pointing arrow performs transformations or aggregations complex multi-step writes back to Dataverse Power Apps button or external mission triggers Logic Apps right-pointing arrow Logic Apps handles multi-trigger a Logic Apps workflow directly from Power escalations right-pointing create a Logic Apps workflow with the when an HTTP request is received processing generate the post URL Logic Apps with optional JSON schema in payload validation list rows right-pointing arrow performs transformations or aggregations right-pointing arrow of a form right-pointing arrow or exports to external system or use a custom connector pointing to the Logic Apps endpoint. Pass dynamic data trigger a Logic Apps workflow directly from Power Apps fields. In the request body and handle the workflow with the when an HTTP request is received trigger and generate the post Power Automate flows with optional JSON schema use the Power Automate connector or direct HTTP action to invoke the flow URL. Add a button available from the flow details of a form right-pointing arrow. For more structured integration, create a custom connector in Azure pointing to the Power Automate flow endpoint. Pass parameters in the request body and receive results back for further processing in Logic Apps form fields, e.g., in the request body or send notifications if needed. What is the role of Power Automate in a Logic Apps plus Power Platform solution? Power
Use the
Automate
Power
handles
Automate
lightweight,
connector
user-initiated
or direct
flows.
HTTP
Example,
action to
simple
invoke a
approvals,
flow URL.
notifications, available
Data
from the
entry
flow
triggers,
details
tightly
page.
integrated with
For more
Microsoft
structured
365 apps
create
like
a
Teams,
custom connector
SharePoint,
in Azure
and Outlook.
pointing to the Power
Logic Apps
Automate
handles
flow
heavy
endpoint.
backend logic,
Hybrid
pass
parameters
connectivity,
in the request
high-volume
body and
processing,
receive results
enterprise
back for further
connectors,
processing in
B2B,
Logic Apps,
ED,
e.g.,
and AI orchestration,
update Dataverse or
common
send
pattern,
notifications.
Power Automate triggers Logic Apps via HTTP
What
request.
is the role of
Logic
Power
Apps
Automate
performs
in a
complex
Logic
work,
Apps plus
calls
Power
back to
Platform
update
solution?
Dataverse or Power Apps
Power
UI.
Automate handles lightweight,
How
user-initiated
does Power BI
flows.
integrate with
Example,
Logic Apps workflows?
simple approvals.
Logic Apps uses the Power BI connector
data
to push
entry
rows
triggers,
to streaming
tightly
datasets or refresh
integrated with
datasets,
Microsoft
add rows to
365
dataset,
apps
refresh
like
a
Teams,
dataset.
SharePoint,
Workflows
and
can
Outlook.
aggregate data from
Logic
external
Apps
systems
handles
and push
heavy
real-time
backend
or scheduled
logic,
updates to
hybrid
Power BI for live
connectivity,
dashboards.
high-volume processing.
Dataverse often serves as
enterprise
the primary
connectors,
data source for Power BI
B2B,
reports.
ED,
Logic
and
Apps
AI
keeps Dataverse
orchestration.
current with external data.
Common pattern. Power Automate triggers
Describe
Logic
a complete
Apps via
end-to-end business
HTTP
application
request.
pattern using both
Logic
platforms.
Apps performs complex
Power
work,
Apps Canvas or
calls back
model-driven
to
app,
update Dataverse
provides the
or
user
Power
interface
Apps
for
UI.
data entry, e.g., customer order form.
How does
service
Power
request
BI integrate
inventory
with Logic
adjustment.
Apps workflows?
On submit,
Logic Apps
Power Apps
uses the
calls
Power
Logic
BI
Apps
connector to push
HTTP
rows
trigger
to
right
streaming
pointing arrow
datasets
Logic
or
Apps
refresh
validate
datasets.
data,
Calls
add external
external
dataset,
ERP,
refresh a dataset, payment gateway.
Workflows
Updates can
Dataverse
aggregate
record
data from
and triggers
external
downstream
systems
processes.
and push real-time or
Logic
scheduled
Apps
updates
pushes
to Power
aggregated
BI
metrics
for
or
live
enriched
dashboards.
data to Power BI for real-time
Dataverse often
dashboards and
serves as the
reporting.
primary data
Power
source for
Automate
Power BI
sends
reports.
contextual notifications
Logic Apps
or
keeps
approvals via
Dataverse
Teams,
current with
Outlook.
external data. How do you secure
Describe
integrations
a
between
complete
Logic Apps and
end-to-end
Power
business
Platform application
applications.
pattern using
Use
both
managed
platforms.
identities for Logic Apps
Power
to
Apps
access
Canvas
Dataverse
or model-driven
no secrets
app
in workflows.
provides the user interface
Apply
for
Dataverse
data
security
entry,
roles,
e.g.,
column-level security,
customer order
and
form,
row-level filtering.
service request,
Expose
inventory
Logic Apps
adjustment.
endpoints via
On
Azure
submit,
API management
Power
or
Apps
private
calls Logic
endpoints
Apps
to restrict access.
HTTP trigger
Enforce
right
data loss
arrow
prevention.
Logic Apps
DLP
validates data
policies
calls
in Power
external
Platform
APIs
environments to
control
ERP,
connector usage.
payment gateway.
Updates Dataverse
What are
record
the governance
and
best
triggers
practices
downstream
for mixed
processes.
Logic Apps plus Power Platform
Logic
solutions?
Apps pushes aggregated
Use
metrics
separate
or
environments,
enriched data to Power
development,
BI for
test,
real-time
and
production
dashboards
for
and
both Power
reporting.
Platform solutions
Power
and Azure
Automate
resources.
sends contextual
Apply Azure
notifications
policy
or
for Azure
approvals
resources
via
and Power
Teams,
Platform
Outlook.
DLP policies consistently across environments.
How do you secure
Tag all
integrations
resources
between Logic
Azure
Apps
and
and
Power
Platform
components for cost allocation and use Azure
managed
RBAC
identities for
plus
Logic
Power
Apps to
Platform
access
security
Dataverse.
roles for access
No
control.
secrets
in workflows. Apply Dataverse
How do you handle
security
performance
roles,
in Dataverse
column-level
plus Logic Apps
security,
integrations?
and row-level filtering?
Use Dataverse batch operations.
Expose Logic
batch
Apps
API
endpoints
via
via
connector
Azure API
for multiple
management
record
or
creates
private
updates
endpoints
instead
to
of
restrict
row-by-row
access.
processing.
Enforce
Filter
data
queries
loss
with fetch
prevention,
XML
DLP,
or data to retrieve
policies
only necessary
in Power
rows and
Platform
columns.
environments to control
Cache frequent
connector
lookups
usage.
in
Logic Apps variables or Azure Redis to reduce Dataverse
What are the
calls.
governance
best practices for mixed Logic Apps
What are
plus
common
Power
pitfalls
Platform
and
solutions?
how to avoid them in these integrations?
Use separate environments.
Power
Develops
Appment,
calling Logic
test,
Apps synchronously
and
right
production
pointing
for both
arrow
Power
UI
Platform
freeze
solutions
during long-running
and Azure
operations.
resources.
Solution.
Apply Azure
Use
policy
asynchronous
for Azure
fire
resources
and, forget
and Power
patterns.
Platform
DLP policies
Dataverse
consistently
throttling on bulk
across
operations.
environments. Solution.
Tag all
Implement
resources,
batching,
Azure
delays,
and Power
and error
Platform
handling scopes
for cost
allocation and use
inconsistent
Azure
data models
RBAC
across platforms
plus Power
Solution.
Platform security
Treat
roles
Dataverse
for
as the
access
single
control.
source of
truth and sync via Logic Apps. How do you handle performance
How
in
do you monitor
Dataverse
and
plus
troubleshoot
Logic
Power
Apps
Platform
integrations
plus Logic App solutions?
Use Dataverse batch
Logic
operations.
Apps.
Use
Batch
Azure Monitor
API
plus Log
via
Analytics
connector
for detailed
for
workflow
multiple
runs,
record
errors,
creates
and performance
updates
metrics
instead of
row-by-row
Power
processing.
Apps.
Power Automate.
Filter
Use
queries
Power
with
Platform
fetch
Admin
XML
Center
or
Analytics
OData
run
to
history
retrieve only
and solution
necessary
health
rows
checks.
and columns.
Cross-platform.
Cache frequent
Enable
lookups
application
in Logic
insights
Apps
in standard Logic
variables
Apps
or
for
Azure
end-to-end
Redis to
tracing
reduce
and correlation
Dataverse
calls. Describe
What
a
are
real-world
common
customer
pitfalls and how
service
to avoid
ticketing
them in these
scenario using both
integrations?
platforms.
Power Apps portal or model-driven app.
Logic Apps.
Customer or agent submits
pointing
a support
arrow
ticket.
UI freeze
Logic
during
apps,
long-running
triggered
operations.
via HTTP
Right pointing arrow analyzes ticket content with Azure OpenAI for categorization. Sentiment right pointing arrow creates dataverse case record right pointing arrow routes to correct
implement
batching,
delays,
power by
and error
real-time
handling
dashboard
scopes.
shows ticket volume,
Pitfall,
average resolution time,
data models
SLA
across
compliance,
platforms,
and sentiment
solutions.
trends. Treat Dataverse as the single source
How
of
do you
truth
use
and
Dataverse
sync
virtual
via
tables
Logic
with
Apps.
Logic Apps?
Virtual tables expose external
How
data
do you
sources,
monitor and troubleshoot
SQL
Power
Server,
Platform
plus
plus
Logic
Logic
Apps
Apps solutions
inside Dataverse without
Logic
duplicating
Apps.
data?
Use
Azure Monitor
Logic Apps
plus
can
log
read from and
analytics
write to
for
virtual
detailed
tables
workflow
using the
runs,
standard Dataverse
errors,
connector
and performance metrics.
Ideal for integrating legacy
Power
systems
Apps,
or
Power
third-party
Automate
data without full
Use
migration.
Power Platform Admin Center Analytics.
What
Run
licensing
history
considerations
and solution
apply
health
when
checks.
combining Logic Apps and Power
Cross-platform.
Platform? Logic
Enable
apps,
application
consumption,
insights in
paper
standard
execution,
Logic apps for
or
end-to-end
standard
tracing
fixed
and
capacity.
correlation IDs. Licensing via Azure subscription.
Power Apps.
Describe a
Per
real-world
app or per user
customer
plan
service
required for
ticketing
custom
scenario
apps.
using both
Dataverse
platforms.
storage is included with
Power Apps
capacity-based
portal
pricing.
or model-driven app.
Power Automate.
Customer or
Premium
agent
license
submits
needed
a
for
support
premium
ticket.
connectors.
RPA,
Logic Apps.
or on-premises
Triggered via
gateway usage.
HTTP right
Strategy.
pointing arrow
Use
analyzes
Logic Apps
ticket
for heavy
content
backend
with
work
Azure
to minimize
OpenAI
Power
for
Automate
categorization
premium licensing needs. Sentiment right pointing arrow creates Dataverse
How do you implement
case
approval
record right
workflow
pointing
spanning
arrow
both
routes
platforms
to correct queue
Power
or
Apps
team
button or form
Power
submission
by
right pointing
real-time
arrow calls
dashboard
Logic
shows
shows
ticket
HTTP
volume,
trigger
average
with record
resolution
details.
time.
Logic
SLA
Apps runs complex
and
multi-level
sentiment
approval
trends.
logic, timeouts, escalations, and
How
external
do you use
integrations.
Dataverse virtual tables
Logic Apps
with
updates
Logic Apps?
Database record
Virtual
status right
tables
pointing
expose
arrow triggers
external
Power
data
Automate
sources,
to send teams
SQL
Outlook
Server,
notifications to
OData
approvers.
APIs. Inside Dataverse without
What are advanced
duplicating
patterns
data
for real-time data
Logic Apps
synchronization?
can read from and
Dataverse
write
to
change
virtual
tracking right
tables
pointing
using
arrow
the
Logic
standard
Apps trigger
Dataverse
on record
connector.
create update
Ideal
right
for
pointing
integrating
arrow
legacy
push to
systems
external
or
systems
third-party
or
data
enrichment
without full migration.
Power Apps real-time rules or button actions right pointing
What
arrow call
licensing
Logic Apps for
considerations
backend processing
apply
right
when
pointing
combining
arrow
Logic
immediate
Apps and
Dataverse
Power
refresh.
Platform?
Use
Logic
Azure
Apps,
Service Bus or
consumption,
Event Grid for
paper
reliable
execution,
event-driven
or
synchronization
standard
across
fixed
platforms.
capacity.
Licensing via Azure
How do you
subscription.
scale Power Platform plus
Power
Logic
Apps
Apps solutions
per app
for
or
enterprise
per user
use?
plan required
Use
for
Logic
custom
Apps
apps. Standard for
Dataverse
high-throughput
storage
backend
is
processing
included with
dedicated
capacity-based
resources.
pricing.
Leverage
Power
Dataverse batch
Automate.
APIs,
Premium
concurrency
license
limits
needed for
and
premium
indexing for
connectors.
performance.
RPA.
Monitor
or
end-to-end
on-premises
with Azure
gateway
Monitor
usage.
plus Power Platform
Strategy.
analytics and scale
Use
resources
Logic
dynamically
Apps
for heavy back-end work to minimize Power
What are common
Automate
interview
premium
questions
licensing
on this
needs.
topic?
How would you build a customer order entry system
How do you
using
implement
Power Apps,
approval
Dataverse,
workflows,
spanning
and Logic
both
Apps?
platforms? What's the
Power
best way
Apps
to trigger
button or
complex
form
backend
submission
logic
right
from a
pointing
Power
arrow
Arrow
calls
submission?
Logic
Apps?
How do you secure and
govern
trigger with
integrations
record
between
details?
Azure Logic Apps and
Logic
Power
Apps
Platform
runs
components?
complex
multi-level approval logic. Timeouts.
How has integration
escalations,
between Logic
and
Apps
external
and Power
integration
Platforms
improved in
Logic
2025,
Apps
2026?
updates
Dataverse record
Tighter
status right
Dataverse
pointing
connector
arrow
with batch
triggers
support,
Power Automate
alternate
to send
key
teams
lookups,
and
Outlook
virtual table
notifications
enhancements
to
approvers. Native Copilot assistance in both Logic
What
Apps
are
Designer
advanced
and
patterns
Power Apps
for
for
real-time
real-time data
development?
synchronization.
Better cross-platform
Dataverse
monitoring and
change
tracing
tracking
via
via Microsoft
Microsoft
Arrow
Purview
Logic
and
Apps
Azure
trigger
Monitor
on record
integration.
create update right pointing arrow
What
real-time
final
push to
recommendation
external
would you give
systems or
organizations
enrichment.
using both platforms?
Power Apps
Use
real-time
Power Apps
rules
and
or
Dataverse
button
for user
actions right
experience,
pointing arrow
data
call
modeling,
Logic Apps
and
for
low-code
backend
rapid
processing
development.
right pointing
Use
arrow
Logic
immediate
Apps for
data
complex
integration. Hybrid
Use
connectivity,
Azure Service
high
Bus
volume
or
event
processing,
grid for
B2B,
reliable event-driven
ED,
synchronization
and enterprise-grade
across
features.
platforms. Design with clear separation of concerns.
How do you
strong
scale
governance,
Power Platform
and end-to-end
plus Logic
monitoring
Apps
from the
solutions
beginning for enterprise use? Use Logic
Thank you for
Apps
watching this
standard for
detailed
high
session
throughput
on
back-end
deep integration
processing
between
with
Azure
dedicated
Logic Apps
resources.
and the Microsoft Power Platform.
Leverage Dataverse
If you found
batch
this video
APIs,
helpful,
concurrency
please like,
limits,
share,
and indexing
subscribe
for
to
performance.
ZoomInData.
Monitor
More advanced
end-to-end
Azure
with
Logic
Azure
Apps
Monitor
content
plus
is coming
Power
soon.
Platform
Stay
analytics
connected
and
and
scale
keep learning.
resources
See you in the
dynamically.
next video. Welcome to
common interview
ZoomInData
questions
Hello
on this
everyone.
topic.
Thank you
How
for
would you
joining
build
the
a
18th
customer
video
order
in our
entry
extended
system
Azure
using
Logic
Power
Apps
Apps,
series?
Dataverse,
In this
and
session,
Logic Apps,
titled Logic Apps
What's
plus
the best
Power
way to
Platform
trigger
deep
complex
integration
back-end
Power
logic
Apps
from a Power
Dataverse
App form submission?
Power by. We will
How
cover
do you secure
how
and
Azure
govern
Logic
integrations
integrates
between
natively
Azure
with the
Logic
Microsoft
Apps and
Power
Power
Platform
components.
components.
Deep connections with Power Apps, Canvas and model-driven.
How has integration
Dataverse,
between Logic
Power
Apps and
Automate
Power
flows
Platform
and Power
improved
by
in 2025?
real-world patterns for building
2026?
end-to-end solutions
Tied to
combining
Dataverse
low-code
connector
front-ends
with
with
batch
enterprise-grade
support,
back-end
alternate
automation,
key lookups,
best
and
practices
virtual
for
table
governance,
enhancements,
security,
native
performance,
Copilot
and scaling these
assistance in
hybrid
both
solutions.
Logic Apps Designer and
2026
Power
edition
Apps for faster development.
This topic is extremely
Better
valuable for
cross-platform
organizations
monitoring
using
and
both Azure
tracing
and
via
Power
Microsoft
Platform,
Purview
combining
and
and
Azure
creates
Monitor
powerful
integration.
end-to-end business applications. If you find
What
this
final
content
recommendation
valuable,
would you
please
give
subscribe to
organizations
ZoomInData
using
and
both
enable
platforms?
notifications to stay
Use
updated.
Power Apps and Dataverse
Let us
for
begin.
user experience.
Data modeling.
Why
and
integrate
low-code
Azure
rapid
Logic
development
Apps
with the Power Platform ecosystem?
Use Logic Apps
Logic
for complex
Apps provides
integration,
enterprise-grade
hybrid
back-end
connectivity,
automation,
high
hybrid
volume
connectivity,
processing,
B2B, ED, high-scale
and
processing,
enterprise-grade
and advanced
features.
AI capabilities.
Design with clear
Power
separation
Platform,
of
Power
concerns,
Apps,
strong
Dataverse,
governance,
Power
and
Automate,
end-to-end monitoring
Power
from
by
the beginning.
delivers low-code front-end experiences, rapid app
Thank
development,
you for watching this
business user
detailed
empowerment,
session on
and
deep
rich
integration
data modeling
between Azure Logic
Together
Apps
they
and
create
the
full
Microsoft
stack
Power
solutions.
Platform.
Power Apps for
If
user
you found
interface,
this video helpful,
Dataverse for secure
please
data
like,
storage,
share,
Logic
and
Apps
subscribe
for complex
to ZoomInData
orchestration and integration.
More
and Power
advanced
by
Azure
for real-time
Logic Apps
insights and
content
reporting
is
coming soon. Stay connected and keep
How
learning.
does Logic Apps
See
connect
you in the
to
next
Dataverse?
video, formerly Common Data